this one's going to be not really gaming related, but it is like technology in a sense. That's why I was interested in it. So this is going to be the FBI did something amazing. Let's take a look.
Hello guys and gals, Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and today you're going to see some rare clip of me actually praising the FBI and saying, God darn, you actually did something good.
He's usually
now,
pretty
on a personal
like, why aren't they doing
basis,
stuff?
I think most three-letter agencies are a little bit shady. The FBI to
Agreed.
me is an interesting agency ever since, back in the days of the Patriot Act. If you grow up like me in this country, you'll notice that personal freedoms and personal security and privacy is something that has basically been eroded and taken away at a grand scale. And ever since the creation of the internet and ever since how computers got so popular, the FBI has basically been the top-tier organization in basically destroying the personal freedoms and privacy of various individuals.
Personal freedoms I wouldn't really agree with, but definitely like privacy, 100%.
They're kind of like the cheap cyber warfare operations unit of the entire US, okay? A lot of people have this weird misconception that the NSA is filled with like crazy cyber warfare hackers, cybercom specialists, when in reality it's the FBI that pretty much handles most of these cases whenever they happen. Now,
Yeah, that's what it seems to be.
The FBI is made up of a very large amount of talented men and women out there that have absolutely led the way of law enforcement, if you will. And to be real with you, whereas I personally disagree on privacy being completely eroded, I will just gladly say that in certain cases, they actually do some pretty solid W's. Now, to understand what's been going on, they ended up actually stopping and taking down one of the largest ransomware gangs in the last few days. Now, this has been going on since 2022, mid-2022, where the FBI infiltrated the servers of Hive. For anybody that doesn't know what Hive is, Hive ransomware is effectively one of the many gangs that exist out in the world of people spreading ransomware and making money off of it. How much money, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we're looking at around $130 million just in the ransom demands that the FBI ended up stopping. So I'm actually happy that a bunch of criminals got stopped. God darn, do I hate ransomware people. To understand just how bad ransomware is, in the past we've looked at plenty of cases of different types and strains of ransomware malware. So one of the largest ones was WannaCry, but some of the gangs that we looked at back in the day was gangs like Revil, for instance. The reality of ransomware is that it's super easy to send out. So to understand what happens over here is you got a bunch of groups coding actual malware that once you launch it on your computer will encrypt all the data on your drive. And once that data is encrypted, the ransomware creates a little key file, sends it over to a command server that's run by these criminals, and once they have your key files, once they have all the tools required to decrypt all of the
you got to pay the money before they give you the key.
Files they encrypted using their malware, they'll effectively ask anybody to give them money. So in certain cases, it could be hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And heck, if they feel like it, maybe millions of dollars. Depending on the corporation and how bad the attack is, a lot of people, unfortunately, give into the ransomware.
They have to.
Because of how much that this software can spread and how easy it is, what these companies or what these groups have started to do is lease out their software. So if you're a script kiddie, sadly, you can go on the internet, reach out to some of these groups, and effectively have them attack a target or give you the tools to attack a target. And they effectively take like 10, 15, 20% of the check on top of it. One of the best ways to illustrate this is to show you how quick and rapid this really is. So this is a malware known as ransomware. Forgive me for not having absolute expertise on what anime this is exactly from. Not that I care. But at the end of the day, to show you, it's a very rudimentary malware because it tripped up Windows Defender. Okay, first off, it even detected it, which, again, Windows Defender is pretty decent. It's got me installing Net Frameworks, which, again, not the best, not the most ideal. But of course, this piece of ransomware, when launched, if you ignore all safeguards, absolutely within like seconds, encrypts everything on your system under the .ransomware, file type, which is its own custom file type. Basically,
is that an enemy? I don't recognize it.
Sent a key off to some server that probably doesn't exist. So even if there was a criminal group behind this, it does not exist anymore, meaning your files are actually gone. So again, based on how ransomware is developed, you may possibly have a way out. But generally, the more time that passes, the more things you do to your computer, the harder it becomes to unencrypt those files after an initial, attack. But of course, it shows you just how devastating it can be. Within seconds, it has completely destroyed this computer in terms of, the files on it. But let's say that it had more abilities to penetrate networks or look around your systems. It might be able to hit a lot more than just your system. It can cause
Yeah, because a lot of times, like, especially working in a business, like, you guys are on a router, like, and everyone's usually, like, maybe shared, has it where you can share documents between each computer.
widespread pandemonium. You can see that the more invasive a piece of ransomware gets, the tougher it can be to sort of mitigate it, and tougher it can be to reverse everything around it. It can be very devastating.
Well, mitigating, like, preventing it doesn't seem, it's not that difficult, but if you're not tech aware, like, if you're not, like, actively knowing about these kind of things, yeah,
And
definitely.
unfortunately, it is probably one of the easiest things to do. They found all their decryption keys and effectively offered it to any of their victims worldwide. And what they did was they took away $130 million in pending ransom. Pending ransom.
Gee.
That's how valuable this is. When you think about criminal operations and why these things are successful, it's because of this. I know we laugh at scams and computer malware that gets sent around, but in reality, this is the biggest business out there, especially for cyber criminals all around. It costs almost nothing to do, and when it works, it is unfortunately one of the most fruitful businesses to get into. So the FBI distributed over 1,000 additional decryption keys to all of their previous victims, and even the ones that exist. And there wasn't just the FBI that was beyond all this, too. The FBI worked with the Canadian federal government, they worked alongside various secret agencies in the US, the Germans, various European organizations, Spanish organizations, you name it.
That's a huge operation.
A worldwide collaborative effort led pretty much by the Federal Bureau in order to take down one of the largest, most dangerous cyber criminal gangs out there. Now, of course, nobody actually has been arrested. What did happen was their main servers got taken down, so ultimately the Hive group got really crippled in the entire thing. Unfortunately, nobody has actually been captured yet. But I imagine if the FBI has been investigating this hard, there's going to be some rectums that are resized in a federal penitentiary sometime in the near future. One of the examples you can always find of these kind of hacks is typically every time you've been infected, they'll typically have a text file which asks you how to decrypt. And typically they'll say, oh, your network has been breached, your data was encrypted. And then they'll give you like an onion link, right?
This has never happened to me, so I'm not familiar
Which is
with
effectively where their sales departments are and where you can find out how to deposit cryptocurrency in order to actually get
that makes
your,
sense.
your decryptor, if you will, and then use that in order to actually free your files from this. Again, depending on how bad you were hacked and how your backup solutions work, some people cave into this stuff. Most modern operating
Yeah, because it's also not a case of how bad it's been hacked. It's like what was hacked. You know what I mean? Like things that are just, you can't just redo.
systems these days, thankfully, have some form of ransomware protection.
Or it's like, sometimes they'll do it if like the information is like really private.
Like if you're a Windows 10 11 user, there's no
Like if you're a bank.
reason not to make sure your ransomware protection is totally enabled. Because let's say, God forbid, you launch some of this software. If you don't have your actual mitigations in check, let's say you don't back up files to a cloud or have any protection, period, you basically lost all of your personal stuff to begin with. And that can absolutely be some of the most damaging shit out there. And again, if you're under the expectation this is a Windows exclusive problem, obviously malware exists also on Mac devices as well too, even though I would argue it's a little bit tougher to get them launched because of the Fisher-Price nature of that system. And obviously, even with Linux systems, nowadays, we're getting more and more targeted. So if you don't actually keep yourself safe,
if they can make money off of it, they're going to try to do it on that.
And you're just launching
platform.
things willy-nilly, passing your administrator privileges, launching scripts, programs, and something shady happens, and again, you don't have those mitigations in present, then you will lose your data, okay? Because once it's encrypted, it is severely difficult, if near impossible, to completely get it unencrypted, okay? So you're either paying up
Unless
to
you're
somebody
paying
that's
it.
hijacked, ransomed you, or you're starting from scratch, okay? And again, unless you're dealing with proper cloud solutions, which there's plenty of services out there for your important data, This is not something you want to basically forget, okay? Because once it happens, at that point, it's all over, okay? It's done. All you can do is sit and watch. And again, the people that do end up getting hacked, typically if you go onto the dark web, a lot of these people have their own like services hanging around on the internet where they basically publish leaks and dumps all over. I'm not going to tell you how to get to these because I don't want to publicize the information. Unfortunately, these gangs exist, and
that actually is good because, you know, like a lot of people, even people who normally wouldn't, once the information is out there on how to do it, at least accessible pretty easily, they're going to at least check it out.
this is how easy it is to effectively target these organizations. We've seen it time and time again with plenty of federal agencies getting attacked, plenty of big corporations getting attacked. And as sad as it sounds, sometimes what will happen is these people will actually attack things like the sick kids hospital or something absolutely innocent in that case, where the cause of their action can absolutely harm some of the most weak out there, so to speak. And of course, even in that case, certain gangs will literally just back off and say, wow, this is way too bad for our moral compass, so we're not even going to go that route. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, to back off from it, the FBI's history in attacking a lot of these targets is rather interesting too. You know, if you ever look at FBI honeypots, there's a big history with them. But one thing that we can divert our attention to is when the FBI launched something known as Anom Chat. So back in the day, the FBI actually literally sold phones to hackers. Of course, this was all undercover, by the way. It wasn't the FBI straight up going to people. They would sell them things like the Anom phone, for instance, which were basically phones like, for instance, these devices right here, where they were basically flashing them with like custom Android operating systems that effectively were loaded with their own malware, their own surveillance systems, and they would basically tap into these. Like, for instance, they had one Anom app where actual hackers, not hackers, but criminals who were operating in multiple different fields were talking to each other. Like, for instance, these guys over here, these dipshits, were talking about literally selling drugs. So here you can see, I have a cargo ship with captain on side too. They want to throw overload as they leave. So obviously drug smugglers. So once tugboats release, the pilot boats guide them out to sea. Once pilot boat leaves, we message saying throw, then they'll throw right away. Can you do this? If so, what is your fee? Yeah, they can definitely catch it. They charge 20% door fee. How many kgs, obviously drugs, can they do per time? What are the cost of goods? When can we start?
Jeez.
Is that firm, bro? Can they charge a fee instead? I have a job ready as tomorrow to pick up. It's already here. And of course, these dipshits thought, man, we're talking in privacy because the FBI literally had sold these out to a bunch of these individuals under a tertiary company, basically selling the idea of secure privacy. Hey guys, the government and the police can't catch into you. Even though the entire time these people were sharing their drug information, their criminal operations, they were using the same servers the FBI was. And that's pretty much just one case example of how the Federal Bureau gets into a lot of these criminal operations and dismantles them from within. So of course, when it came to Hive ransomware, they were in this entire group since I believe July of 2022. And ever since then, they've basically been poking around. And it took them a while to realize that this was the main operations center for their entire service. And once they found that out, they effectively jumped in and you shut the operation down, obviously seized the website, seized the servers, and then of course sent the ransomware decryptors out to various people around. Which of course at the end of the day is the best possible scenario that could have happened. Around $130 million of ransom completely
It wouldn't surprise me if like they may have like released their cover for some of their people who were in, but like I think for the deep-seated ones, they may have just let them stay. Like, okay, this is obviously going to come back up, so we need people to continue pretending to be like bad actors in a sense.
Thwarted, which actually blew my mind. Because up until this point, I kind of have looked at these operations as nothing too massive. But obviously, it is a pretty big industry. Because again, like I'm telling you, the actual cost of doing this is very minimal, apparently, compared to the actual gains one can make. These people literally had all this ransom sitting around. And of
the
course,
actual profit is crazy.
Maybe this ransom wasn't going to be paid out. But of course, generally I've noticed that a lot of companies and a lot of small businesses often don't have any choices. So unfortunately, even if they may not have gotten the full 130 million, just getting half of that would have put them so far in the green, it's not even funny. But of course, thankfully, the Federal Bureau got involved and shut these people down like they should have. And
hopefully they get more.
Hopefully they keep doing this to more and more companies out there,
Yeah.
more and more groups like this out there. Simply because it's sad to say ransomware has basically jumped up to this point. If you ever wonder why I haven't done like a traditional, like, hey, let's dig out this malware and check into it. Like a typical traditional virus investigation. I still like to cover malware. I still like to cover computer security. But if you ever wonder why there's not been something super traditional, it's literally because a lot of the most popular malware that exists is stuff like ransomware. And once you've seen one piece of ransomware, you've sadly seen almost all of them. It's more interesting to me to cover a lot of these gangs that are behind some of the largest ransomware campaigns, because the more and more time passes, the more and more of these cyber cartels emerge, and it's sad to say
cyber cartels. Jeez.
that some of them can make over $100 million worth of cash. And of course, this is just one sad gang out of many that exist. So ladies and gentlemen, the FBI actually did something pretty cool. They shut down a pretty massive cyber criminal group out there, and hopefully one of many, because this shit is getting worse, more and more awful as time goes on. There's more and more cyber warfare attacks that happen, more and more ransomware attacks keep happening every single day. And this is just one slap out of many that should come going on forward. Ladies and gentlemen,
hopefully,
if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's really good video. That is good to hear that the FBI is actually doing something against this, because I think cybersecurity in general is the way going forward. Like, I think a lot of criminal activity in general is leaning towards on the internet. So, not that the people want their freedom taken away or their privacy, but at the same time, sometimes it's kind of needed. Like how cops can get a warrant for your place. So